स्टार्ट करूँ सर?
हाँ करो ना, स्टार्ट करो।
Okay. Hello everyone. A very warm welcome to all in this cold winter. My name is Ria Rai and I am the student of MSc Biotechnology. Today I am going to discuss about the 7th chapter of 12th NCERT Biology, that is evolution. Please pay attention to this session as this session will contain all the important topics with the point of view of NEET exam. So today in this chapter we are going to cover the topic origin of life. I am going to cover this chapter in 4 different parts. So the very first part is the origin of life. In this I am going to discuss about the Big Bang theory, different ancient theories of origin of life, modern theory of origin of life, chemical evolution, biological evolution, and oxygen evolution. So let us start. So at first we are going to discuss about the Big Bang theory. What is Big Bang theory? The Big Bang theory was proposed by Abel Lemaitre. The origination of universe occurred approximately 20 billion years ago due to the thermonuclear explosion. Thermonuclear explosion produces blast, light, heat, and varying amount of fallout. And due to that thermonuclear explosion, origination of universe has occurred approximately 20 billion years ago. And this thermonuclear explosion is called as the Big Bang theory. And due to this, origin of solar system took place by gaseous cloud approximately 4.5 billion years ago. These gaseous cloud collapsed and get converted into flat disk-like structure, which was made up of atoms and small particles. That flat disk-like structure was known as the solar nebula. It was very hot in the central part and it got converted into sun as the heat or the temperature of it got increased day by day. Due to the condensation of the atoms and dust particles, other planets were formed. After that, the solid part of the planet was known as the lithosphere and the gaseous part was known as the atmosphere. When the Earth cooled down, that is after the formation of all the planet, when the Earth got cooled down and its temperature was decreased by approximately 100 degrees Celsius, the water was formed. Now comes the ancient theories for the origin of life. The very first theory is the theory of spatial creation. It is the mythology-based theory. Mythology means the study of myth, especially one belonging to a particular religious or cultural traditions. The greatest support of this theory was given by Father Sorias. And in this theory, according to the Bible, life and everything was created by God within 6 days. And according to the Hindu mythology, the creator of this world was the god Brahma, and the very first man which came on the earth was Manu, and the woman was Shraddha. According to it, the life has not changed ever since its origin, and the spatial creation theory lacks scientific evidences, so it is not accepted. Theory of spatial creation has given us 3 connotations. The very first is that all living organisms which we are able to see today are created as such only. The diversity was always the same since creation, and the diversity will remain the same in future too. And the Earth is about 4,000 years old. The next theory is the theory of spontaneous generation. The word spontaneous means which is generated automatically or generated by its own. This theory is also known as the abiogenesis or autogenesis, that is self-generation. And it was supported by following philosophers, that is Thales, Anaximander, Xenophanes, Plato, Empedocles, and Aristotle. According to this theory, the life or the living form was originated from the non-living or decaying material and different rotting metals like the straw, mud, etc. spontaneously, that is by its own. And the mud of the Nile River has given rise to frogs, snakes, and crocodiles like different living organisms. And this theory of abiogenesis or generation by non-living thing was strongly supported by von Helmont. According to him, the formation of mice took place within 21 days when a sweat-soaked dirty shirt was kept in the wheat bran. That wheat bran was supporting for the growth of the mice as an energy source or as a nutrition source, and from that the mice has developed within 21 days. Next is the cosmozoic theory. This theory was proposed by Richter. According to it, the protoplasm reached on the earth in the form of spores or other simple particles from some unknown part of the universe with cosmic dust, and they gave rise to various forms of life. At first, we should know what is protoplasm. The protoplasm is the part which includes the cytoplasm as well as the nucleus of the cells, which means it excludes the cell wall or the cell membrane part. And this protoplasm reached on the earth in the form of spores or small globule-like particles, and it generated or it came with the help of cosmic dust. Cosmic dust are also known as the space dust, which is a dust-like material that exists in the outer space. It is also known as the interstitial dust, and it has fallen on the earth, and like this the protoplasm has came to earth. Next is the cosmic panspermia theory. This theory was proposed by Arrhenius, and according to this theory, organisms existed throughout the universe, and then spores could freely travel through space from one star to another. That is, all the organisms are free living and they can travel from one place to another. Next is the theory of biogenesis. This was given by Harvey and Huxley. According to this theory, it is written as omnis vivum ex ovo or vivo, that is, the new organism can be originated on earth only by the pre-existing life, which means that if any of the pre-existing life would be present on the earth, that will only be responsible for the generation of any new organism. This theory rejected the theory of spontaneous generation, that is the theory of abiogenesis, but it could not explain how the origin of life occurred. So to prove the theory of biogenesis and to disapprove the theory of abiogenesis, following experiments were performed by the different scientists. Let us look. The very first experiment was done by Francisco Redi. He was an Italian man and he carried out this experiment in 1668. He took 3 different jars, and in 3 different jars, he has kept the cooked meat. As we know that the cooked meat can attract different type of microorganisms which can come on it, feed on it, and can grow there. So he has taken 3 different jars in which he has kept meat pieces which was cooked. The very first jar was uncovered. The second jar which he has taken was sealed by a cork, that is fully sealed, and the third jar was covered by a gauze, that is it was having some small pores. He has observed that the maggots, that is maggots are the larvae of the flies like house flies, cheese flies or blowflies. So these maggots were developed in the jar which was having which was open, and the jar which was covered with a gauze. But the development of maggot didn't take place in the cork sealed flask. This means it was proved from this theory that the larvae were formed from the eggs laid by the fly in the open jar. If the fly would not enter the jar, then how will the maggots or the larvae will develop? So the open jar was able to grow the larva. This was due to the laying of the egg by the flies. Since the meat in the closed jar could not be visited by the flies, so no development of larva occurred. Therefore, it can be said that the life originated from the pre-existing life. That is, the egg which was laid by the different flies were responsible for the generation of different larvae. The life is not generated by its own. The next experiment was done by Lazzaro Spallanzani in 1767. He had taken the flask in which he boiled the vegetables and meat. After boiling the vegetable and meat, A sterilized broth or a nutritive soup was prepared, and he kept some of it in the air-sealed flask and some in the loosely corked flask. Both of them were heated. He observed that the soup in the sealed flask remained sterile while the microorganism appeared in the soup which was loosely corked or which was open. According to this experiment and the results obtained by this, we can say that even the microorganism was formed from the pre-existing ones that were present in the air. Once we have opened the cork of the closed jar, the microorganism were grown in that also. But as we know that the sterilization process is responsible for killing of each and every living form or lives or bacteria, as it was killed in the very starting. Let me show it through the pointer. Yes, in this jar, as we can see that it is not covered with the cork, and once the broth was heated, it was made free from microorganism. But after it was cooled and the air has bring most of the bacteria and microorganism in the jar, after which the growth of different microorganism took place in that jar. But when the jar was sealed or the flask was sealed, then no growth was occurred, but after opening that flask, the growth was seen in that also. So this theory proves that even microorganisms were formed from the pre-existing one in the air rather than spontaneously. The third experiment was done by the Louis Pasteur in 1868. He has prepared a sterilized syrup of sugar, and he has heated that. So all the pre-existing microorganism was killed. He has taken the flask which was swan-shaped, swan neck flask or the curved neck flask, and this flask, as this is swan-shaped, when the medium was or the broth was heated, then no growth has occurred in the swan neck flask, because when the medium was heated, the water has evaporated, and after the condensation of water, it got collected in the tube form in that flask, and after condensation, this water has become the barrier for different microorganisms to enter inside the broth. Thus, the microorganisms were not able to grow in this, but when the neck of that swan neck flask was broken, the growth of the microorganism took place, just because this broth has came in contact with the air, and due to contact of air, different microorganism has came in this, and the broth, as we all know, that it is a rich source for growth of any microorganism. Thus different microbes has grown in the flask. So by this experiment also, he has proved that the life comes from the pre-existing life only. Next is the modern theory of origin of life. This is also known as the Operon-Haldane theory of origin of life, as it was proposed by A.I. Operon and J.B.S. Haldane. It is also known as the naturalistic theory or theory of chemical evolution. This theory was published in the book Origin of Life. According to this theory, it has been said that the life originated by the composition of the chemicals, and the very first life has been originated in the water of oceans. Thus, water is essential for the origin of life. Now comes the chemical evolution. The very first is the atomic stage. According to this, the Earth originated 4.6 billion years ago. At that time, free atoms were present, and those free atoms were essential for the formation of protoplasm. At that time, the Earth was having, or the primitive atmosphere was comprised of different types of compounds like carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, and oxygen. Next is the molecular stage. All the free atoms which are present, they all combine and form the molecules, as well as many simple inorganic compounds. And due to higher temperature and active hydrogen atoms, these hydrogen atoms were present, and higher temperature and active hydrogen atom, they all combined with the free oxygen and formed the water. And due to this, the free oxygen was not present, and the primitive atmosphere became reduced. That is, it was not having free oxygen. But this present environment in which a present atmosphere in which we are living is the oxidizing one. That is, free oxygen is available for us. Hydrogen also combined with the nitrogen to form ammonia. Origin of early organic compounds, nitrogen and carbon, which was present at the atomic stage, they both combined and formed different metallic compounds like nitrides and carbides. When water vapor was combined with the metallic carbide, the formation of methane was formed, and this was the very first organic compound that was formed. Later on, the hydrogen cyanide was also formed. The water, when came in contact with a high temperature, the evaporation had occurred, due to which the clouds were formed. After that, the condensation of those water or the water vapor has occurred, due to which the rainfall has occurred on the earth and primitive oceans were formed. Next is the origin of simple organic compound. The water of the primitive oceans was having large amount of methane, ammonia, hydrogen, cyanide, carbide, and nitride. They all interacted and formed different type of simple organic compounds. And energy for formation of these simple organic compound was given by the UV rays of the sunlight, cosmic rays, and heat of volcanic eruption. Next is the origin of complex organic compound. These simple organic compound combined and led to the formation of the large or complex organic compounds, just like many different amino acids combined and formed the polypeptides and proteins. The simple sugars formed the polysaccharides, and fatty acid and glycerol molecules combined and formed the fat and the lipids. Sugar, nitrogenous base, and phosphates, they all combined and they had gave rise to the nucleotides, and nucleotides together form the nucleic acid, which is the genetic material that we know that DNA and RNA. These macromolecule forms main component of protoplasm. Hence, the possibility of origin of life in primitive ocean could be established. That is, due to the formation of different complex organic compound, the possibility of life has increased. After a long time, the water of the primitive ocean became rich mixture of organic compound as a result of chemical evolution. That is, the chemical evolution has given a very big boon to the oceans due to the presence or due to the origin of different organic compounds. Haldane called this saturated water of ocean as prebiotic soup or hot dilute soup. This is the experimental evidence for the formation of the simple organic compound. It was performed by Harold Urey and his student Stanley Miller. In this experiment, Miller has took the mixture of methane, ammonia, hydrogen, and water in the ratio of 2:1:2 and has passed the steam over it. The steam has been passed over it by the boiling water and connected it with the glass tube. This is the glass tube, and steam has been passed through the water, and different compounds, that is the ammonia, methane, and hydrogen were combined in the ratio of 2:1:2, and an electric current was passed with the help of the two electrodes which were made up of tungsten, and these were providing as a source of energy. They were charged at the temperature of 800 degrees Celsius. And after 18 days, this fluid, which was formed after the combination and the electric charge or the energy which was provided due to tungsten electrode, the fluid which was formed was collected after 18 days and it was analyzed. This fluid was dark red in color, and when it was analyzed or when it was checked, then it contained different type of compounds like a simple amino acid, simple organic acid, amino acids like glycine, alanine, aspartic acid, and different organic acids like formic acid, acetic acid, oxalic acid, lactic acid, and succinic acid. Along with that, different type of carbohydrates like pentose, hexose, aldehyde, and ketonic like sugars were present. So from these compounds, we can we have came to the conclusion of the biological evolution, and this theory was thus proved that the simple organic compound were formed. Here comes the biological evolution. The very first part of the biological evolution is the origin of protobionts. So very first, we should know that what is protobiont or what is conservates. The protobionts were the precursor of the early life, and they resembles. We can see in this image that they resemble to the very simple cells, and they are composed of organic and inorganic molecules which are trapped in the lipid membrane. These protobionts contain proteins, nucleic acid, lipid, and polysaccharide. They grew by absorbing the molecules from the environment. This is how the protobionts were formed. The macromolecules were synthesized abiotically in the primitive oceans, and these macromolecules formed the large colloidal drop-like structure, and that drop-like structure are known as the protobionts, and they are the cluster of different macromolecules. They were unable to reproduce, that is, they carry out the division, but they were not able to reproduce. The chemical reactions like decomposition of glucose took place inside it, and conservates were the very first sole living molecules which gave rise to the cell. Next is the origin of protocells or eubiont. They are the chemical precursor to a living organism. That is, they are living in nature. They were the very first living form which were originated in the primitive oceans. They are the cluster of nucleoproteins, and nucleoproteins are formed by the combination of the nucleic acid and the enzymatic proteins. They can self-duplicate, and the nucleoproteins were the very first sign of life. Protocell represented the beginning of the life. The very means a few amount of nucleoproteins that were present, that were forming the eubiont or protocells, they got separated, and they were present in the free form in the oceans. Thus, they become inactive. And when these nucleoproteins enter in another eubiont, they became active, and like this, the viruses were formed. This is known as the retrogressive evolution. Retrogressive evolution means the formation of simple things from the complex things. That is, from the eubiont or from nucleoprotein, the virus-like structure was formed. Thus, this is retrogressive evolution. Zog, Thomas Ketch, and Altman described that some RNA molecules have enzymatic activity, and these RNA molecules having enzyme activity were known as the ribozymes. They were able to replicate the primordial RNA, and it was believed that around 4 billion years ago, the Earth was known as the RNA world. The RNA molecule carried out all the process of life without the help of either protein or DNA. By this discovery, evolution is named as the RNA world. And it is estimated that life originated about 3.9 billion years ago as a protocells in the Precambrian era, which was anaerobic heterotroph. Next is the origin of prokaryote. When the mutation occurred, mutation means change in the DNA sequences. The protocells which were formed, they became more complex and efficient, and they started utilizing the surrounding material and condensed themselves, and the formation of prokaryotic cells take place. Their mode of nutrition was chemoheterotroph. The mode of nutrition chemoheterotroph or saprotroph means in this, the organisms which are chemoheterotrophic, they utilize the organic sources for energy and carbon. They cannot fix the carbon by their own, thus they use the organic material for fulfilling their carbon and energy requirement. They carried out the respiration anaerobically, that is, in the absence of oxygen. Next is the origin of autotrophism. Very first is the origin of chemosynthesis. Due to continuous withdrawal of the organic molecule by the chemoheterotroph, the reduction in the organic materials occurred, and due to this, a new mode of nutrition has been originated, that is chemosynthesis, that is known as the chemoautotroph, or the organisms which can perform the which can make or which can use the chemical reaction for making the energy, and they can synthesize different organic compound from carbon dioxide. Means they are opposite to chemoheterotroph. Chemoheterotrophs are utilizing the organic compound as a carbon source, while chemoautotroph, they carry out chemosynthesis, means they synthesizes the organic compound with the help of carbon dioxide. In this also, the respiration is of anaerobic type. Such mode of nutrition are found in the different bacteria like sulfur bacteria, nitrifying bacteria, etc. The origin of photosynthesis, the bacteria chlorophyll, or the chlorophyll which is present in the bacteria, developed in some autotrophic bacteria like organisms. That is the bacteria which can carry out the synthesis of their own food. They are known as the photoautotroph. These are the organisms which absorbs the solar energy and they convert this into chemical form, that is they prepare their own food. Photosynthesis is the process of utilization of the solar energy for synthesizing the organic compound, that is conversion of solar energy into chemical form. They also respire anaerobically and they utilized hydrogen from the sources like H2S, that is from hydrogen sulfide, they has taken the hydrogen. This photosynthetic autotrophism is represented by planktonic sulfur bacteria of today. This is the reaction which occurred, that is by taking the 6 molecule of CO2 and 12 molecules of H2S, and by utilizing the solar energy as the energy source, the formation of the glucose, that is C6H12O6, as well as water and 12 molecules of sulfur were released. The bacteria chlorophyll formed true chlorophyll by molecular changes. Different molecular changes has occurred in the bacteria chlorophyll and true chlorophyll were formed. These true chlorophyll were present in the bacteria like cyanobacteria or blue-green algae. They utilized water as a hydrogen donor or hydrogen source, and evolution of oxygen take place while the formation of organic compound. In this, we can see that the hydrogen sulfate is used as a energy, as a hydrogen source, but in this the water molecule was used as a hydrogen source, and the same the formation of glucose take place, but here the oxygen is evolved and water molecules are formed, same in the above reaction. Oxygen revolution. During the origin and evolution of life, liberation of free oxygen by the blue-green algae like prokaryote due to photosynthesis was a revolutionary change in the history of Earth. That is, when this reaction has occurred, that is formation or the conversion of the bacteria chlorophyll into 2-chlorophyll, oxygen molecules were released by this reaction, and due to this, the amount of oxygen was increased on the Earth, and this was thus known as the oxygen revolution. Thus, by this, the Earth's atmosphere has been changed from reducing to oxidizing. The free oxygen oxidized the methane and ammonia, and due to this, different gases were formed like carbon dioxide, nitrogen, and water. Accumulation of free oxygen formed a layer of ozone above the atmosphere of the Earth, which started absorbing most of the UV rays of sunlight. Means due to the presence of free oxygen, a layer was formed around the Earth, and that layer is known as the ozone layer, which protect the atmosphere of Earth, or which protect the Earth from the UV radiations or UV lights by absorbing it. Next is the origin of the eukaryotic cell. Billions of years ago, condition became suitable for aerobic respiration. This occurred due to the release of oxygen by the cyanobacteria or the blue-green algae, and due to that, the presence of oxygen, the formation of eukaryotic cell took place. These aerobic respiration yield 20 times more energy than the anaerobic respirations. Hence, the prokaryote adapted themselves for aerobic mode of respiration. Nucleus, mitochondria, and other organelles were developed in the cells, and thus free-living eukaryotic cell-like organisms originated about 1.5 billion years ago in the primitive ocean. That's all about today. So please go through this whole video, as this will help you out a lot for the NEET examination point of view. I have given my mail ID also over here. So if you are having any query or any suggestion regarding this presentation, you can mail me. Thank you.
Good.
Sir, next part start कर दूं?